Hi friends, and welcome to Crick Vidya's cricket podcast. And today we bring you the fourth episode of our Legends series. This is a series where we pick cricketing legends and talk about their early days, their cricketing career, and their post-playing days. In the first three episodes, we covered Glenn McGrath, Yuvraj Singh, and Chris Srikanth. And today we have a great fast bowler from Pakistan, Wasim Akram. We'll be discussing today. And to discuss him, we have a guest from Pakistan itself. Kuram bhai, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Suneet. Thank you, Crick Vidya, for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah. And as usual, we have our Crick Vidya team, Yasir, Manju, and me. Hi, guys. Welcome to the
Hi.
podcast. So,
Yeah, thank you.
Man-
Hi.
so Manju, as usual, is the moderator for this series. So, over to you, Manju.
Thanks a lot, Sunit. A very warm welcome to Khurram for this
Thank you,
special
Manju bhai.
episode on Wasim Akram. So I would like to mainly start about the first thing was the early years of Wasim and his discovery and your memories regarding the same.
Yeah, when it comes to Wasim Akram, it's a very exciting story about Wasim Akram's discovery into uh, international cricket because, uh, he was in that camp, under 19 camp, which got attended by Khan Muhammad and Javed Miadad also came in nets to face those fast bowlers. So, and Khan Muhammad was the bowling partner of Fazal Mahmood, in the 1950s. Our favorite team. And when he saw Khan Muhammad saw Wasim Akram and even gave some tips to him to increase his pace. He saw the swing and he gave tips how can he increase the pace. But his case was basically moved forward when Javed Miadad came in nets to face fast bowlers, and he was mostly impressed by Wasim Akram. When he faced Wasim Akram, he was in awe of him, and then he talked to selectors and selection committee that this guy has got the potential and he should be given a run, especially when New Zealand was touring Pakistan. So he wanted that Wasim Akram should be played in the tour game that was going to be played between Pakistan A team and New Zealand. So Wasim Akram was given a go. Uh, After selection committee firstly did not agree to that. They said that he has no first class experience, he hasn't played any cricket, so how can we just walk him into the lineup? But he was after so much discussion, Javed Miadad, the character he was able to convince them that no, I want him to I want you to select him for the game. So when he got selected, he got 7 wickets in first innings, and overall a 10 wicket haul. And out of these 7 wickets, his wickets include John Reed, Bruce, Edgar, and some big names in there. So I think this prompted them to really think about Wasim Akram. And because Javed Miadad was the test captain at that time, Imran Khan was out due to injury that he suffered. Javed Miadad uh, included him in the squad for New Zealand series, and he made his debut in November 1984 in an ODI. So after that, he had to convince selection committee that he wanted to take him to New Zealand as well, because our next tour was to New Zealand. And in his second match at Dunedin, we all know that he took that 10 wicket haul
And
and made Javed Miadad proud. As Wasim Akram himself says that if it wasn't for Javed Miadad, there would have been no Wasim Akram. He respects him a lot in that regard, that it was his eye which caught him, and despite all the differences that he had to face with selection committee over his selection, uh, he trusted him, he trusted his abilities, and Pakistan found this superstar, going in. So he was basically fast tracked into international cricket because of Javed Miandad.
So on this note, I'd just like to get a word or two about this fast tracking which happens in Pakistan and also many times in India. Like even Pakistan had played the youngest Test cricketer Hassan Raza also. So what do you feel this holds for the players? You think it is right, or what are your views on that?
Well, we have had some cases, some very memorable debuts in, when batsmen have even not made it into their 20s. Javed Miandad, 19-year-old, against
Hmm,
New Zealand, 4 wickets down.
correct.
Richard Hadley took 3 wickets, and
Hmm,
in comes Javed Miandad, smashes a very fluent double hundred in a Richard Hadley led attack. So, and he never looked back. But some are generational talents. Not everyone is a generational talent. It is understandable that with fast bowlers, you can do that and you should do that. Some guys who have got that extra pace, uh, I think when we will discuss it even further, the management and the captain plays a very important part, because these guys can struggle, the young guns can struggle, but have they got enough patience and eye for the talent that they can continue playing them even with their struggles? When we will talk about his the career development, we will see how he was back under tough circumstances. So I think it's important to, when you see some talent in someone, it's important to give him a go, but at the same time, uh, it has to be a generational talent as well. It's not that you are debuting each and every batsman or bowler who is making runs in first class system. So I think the eye for talent was more in yesteryears, right?
hmm,
Because there wasn't much reliance on stats. Even if
right.
you go back in 70s and 80s, most of the Pakistani batsmen who debuted, they used to average in 30s, high 30s in first class cricket. But when they played international cricket, they were able to, score lots of runs for Pakistan. So I think this is the thing. And now it's a lot more, statistical and analytical game. So I think that eye for talent thing is decreasing a bit now.
So, with regards to the captain and management, he definitely blossomed under Imran Khan's leadership. And even when Imran Khan came back from retirement for the World Cup, he played more of a secondary role, and he allowed these battery of fast bowlers to dominate in Australia. So, according to you, what do you feel are the main advantages of having Imran as a leader? Did it liberate Wasim Akram, or did it improve his skill?
Yeah, it was. He was the main, Wasim Akram himself admits that he was the main man behind our success. We learned a lot from Imran Khan. He backed us a lot. He even in 92 World Cup, what did he say to Wasim? Bowl as fast as you can. I don't worry about extras. He bowled lots of extras in 92 World Cup. So he really backed them, and he was the one who, when Lancashire Shire approached Wasim Akram, Imran Khan basically was the one who suggested him to play county cricket so that he will play in different conditions in different match situations, and he will develop even more. So from 1988, he joined Lancashire, and in his developing years as a test bowler in international cricket, he was playing for Lancashire. He played overall 91 first class matches. So basically, he was playing 9 to 8, 9, 10 first class matches with Lancashire as well. So there, Imran Khan had a great role in this regard, and also that Sultan of Swing title wouldn't have been
Mm.
possible without Imran Khan. Wasim and Waqar themselves admit that it was Imran from where we learned the art of reverse swing bowling, because Sarfaraz Nawaz basically the one who started it, and then Imran Khan in those on those dead wickets of subcontinent, he absolutely you know uh, he improved it and then transferred it to Wasim and Waqar, who basically they it took it to another level. It's as simple as that. So Imran's role as a leader was so crucial for Wasim Akram. Just to give you some examples, for example, at the start of his career, he had to play a tough tour of England in 1987, and then in same 1987 he had to go to India for a long series. And if you know the dynamics of Pakistan India series in 1780s, captains used to play safe, and there used to be high scoring drawn game when it comes to Pakistan and India games. So it is not easy for fast bowlers, young fast bowlers in his teenage years, to play such high scoring draws and have that work rate, that workload that Wasim Akram showed in those years. In 1987 series, there was only one result oriented game, and that was Leeds. After that Leeds test, there were two test matches, they were high scoring draws. So, and again, despite being the young fast bowlers in 1987 in India, he turned out to be the highest wicket taker for Pakistan, because Imran Khan, after recovering from injury, came back, and he was for some time a second force. Wasim Akram had, with aging Imran Khan, Wasim Akram had to share a lot of workload as well. So, in that regard, he improved a lot, bowling in these different conditions, in these different situations. These from 18 years to 22 years, I think these 4 years really taught him a lot, and he was able to learn how to bowl in different conditions. And that was, and under Imran Khan's firstly Miyadad relationship, Miyadad leadership, who was his mentor, who brought him in, and then Imran Khan, he once he said that give me three fast bowlers of 140 plus, and then I'll win you test matches. And this is what he got when he got Wasim Akram and Waqar Yunus. So Imran as a leader was what they need. He was a fast bowler himself. He knew the dynamics of fast bowling, and I think that was a blessing in disguise for Wasim Akram as a young cricketer.
So before I ask you about his memorable spells, I just want to know one more thing: is do you feel that this Pakistan approach and the emergence of Wasim, it changed the way the world looked at fast bowling? Because it was always looked as a very violent and with a lot of bouncers, short of length, or like the Australians and Hadley, they used to bowl the channel, whereas these people brought a very good skill into the entire craft. So
Yeah,
it made it very watchable, whereas Wasim's bouncer was used sparingly. So that way,
Yeah, exactly. Go back into from 76 to you can say 87, 88. It was Windies attack, four pace attack, four paceman attack that caught the eye of everyone. And then there was Dennis Lilly, Richard Hadley. That was new for the cricket fans as well, to see a bowler who can do great things, who can swing the new ball and old ball with equal ease. And it's not all about bounces, it's not all about targeting the head of the or the body of the batsman. So yeah, it is, he revolutionized the art of swing bowling, or given it a new look when he came. And after improvement, when he peaked, he was something else. And this is what uh, people started to like about the two W's, the new dimension that they gave to fast bowling. And being a left-hander, uh, you know, left-handers were very rare, and not many left-handers have prolonged career. So seeing a different variety of fast bowler doing all his magic for all those years was definitely a different side, and a great side for cricket fans.
so nowadays we very rarely see someone play a decade or so as a pacer. So, despite having these groin
Yeah.
injury the issues and also battling diabetes, he also had a quite a career spanning 2 decades in different generations and eras of cricket. So, what do you think was the secret of his longevity and the hunger to do well?
Yeah, I think it was mercurial in a sense,
Yeah. Yes.
because he was someone who debuts in his early 20s or mid 20s. It's a different thing. But someone who has debuted at the age of 18 and played 19 years of ODI career and 18 years of Test career, it's not easy for a fast bowler to play for that long, starting at such a young age and playing so much cricket in his teen years. So it was very surprising even to see. Is so much went through. He had that growing issue all through these years, and then later on suffering with sickness like diabetes for the last 5 6 years of his international career. It's just amazing and beyond belief that he played for these many years, not only international cricket, but also he used to play a lot of first class cricket as well. So definitely it was quite amazing. The secret of such a longevity, I think it's the hunger. Even with all these difficulties and the prolonged growing issue he had, he wanted to succeed. He wanted to perform for his country, with all the pain barrier that would come achieving feats for his country. I think that was the main point. And he successfully did that for so long. So salute to him for his fitness, and for his willingness to do so much for his country for such a long time.
So now we are moving to an interesting part, that is Wasim, the batsman at the lower order. So he has
Yeah.
the maximum number of runs scored at the number 8 position in Test cricket, and also he's hit Vivian Richards for a six to win a ODI game. So
Yeah,
how do
yeah.
you see Wasim the batsman, or do you have any regrets that he did not bat higher, he did not bat longer, anything like
Well, coming to the later part first, no regrets. If Wasim Akram had tried to work more on his batting. We couldn't see Wasim, the genius he was with the ball. He wouldn't have been the same force with the ball, you know. So no regrets. He knew that he has some strengths, and he knew his limitation as a batsman. And he won some memorable innings that he played in ODI cricket early part of his career, not in ODI cricket, also in Test cricket. That memorable knock-off 100 at Adelaide to save the Test with Imran Khan. He had a wonderful series with the ball, but that was an amazing innings. He made a very good the innings that you talk about. He scored a very good innings to win us a Nehru Cup final as well in those days. And in 92 series, I think it was Lords or Oval Test that we won. We were chasing a modest total, and Pakistani batting did Pakistani thing basically,
Yeah.
and chasing a lowish total. We collapsed, and then it was Wasim Akram with Wakar Yunus for that ninth wicket partnership. We won that Test match, and ultimately they proved to be the difference because we won the series 2-1. And 92 World Cup final. Who can forget that?
92 World Cup, yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
33 of 19 balls. 33 of 19
19.
balls, and we won by 22 runs. So how crucial were these 33 runs from Wasim Akram, apart from his magic deliveries, successive deliveries that he bowled to win us that World Cup title. And going further, he continued to play such brilliant innings in between throughout his career. Uh, Even at times his 20s and 30s were very crucial for us because of the dimension of Pakistan batting lineup, which could surprise us at any time in 90s. So he with Moin Khan at times, and sometimes Glenn Mushtaq, Pakar Yunus would rescue us a bit. So um, as a number 8 batsman, uh, I think he did enough memorable. He played enough memorable knocks for us to give us that some amazing victories. So no regrets regarding that. He could have tried to work more on his batting because that would take that magic part of his the genius that he was with the ball.
And your thoughts on Wasim's tenure as captain? Because many will argue that it had a high point of the 99 final and also a low point at the same time, looking at different perspectives. But in that
Yeah.
time, he also reached the final of the World Test Championship, of the Asian Test Championship. So he did his bit as a captain.
Yeah, he did. He did. People mostly talk about Pakistan captaincy debacle in late 90s. We used to change captains for fun in home series because of certain issues. There was some dressing room issues as well. So, but just to give you a perspective, under Wasim Akram, we played 9 home test matches. We won 6 of them and drew 3 of them. We didn't lose a test under Wasim Akram, the test captain at home. So this is the first thing. Then that 99 series, for me, for someone like me who started to watch cricket from 96 World Cup, that was the first Pakistan India battle. The great battle that the cricket fraternity was waiting for so long. You know,
Right.
1987, the last test series was played in 1989, and then after 10 years, we played test series again. And what a great series it was. So watching him, Wasim Akram, captaining that side, that Chennai test, India needed 16 runs to win. They had 4 wickets in hand. Sachin was playing one of the greatest knocks in test history of all time, right? And what he does, I just watched that clip again and realized that 16 runs to get 4 wickets in hand, and still he has silly mid on, silly mid off, and a slip and mid off up, right? And this geniosity, uh, uh, forced Sachin. He tempted Sachin to, go for glory and do the job quickly. And ultimately, it was he fell basically fell into that trap and was caught at mid off by Wasim Akram. So
Mm.
Wasim Akram, the captain, has given us a lot, and not to forget our greatest ODI victory after '92 World Cup was that Carlton and United World Series 96-97 triangular series, Pakistan, West Indies, and Australia. He was the captain. That was basically my fourth tournament I was watching, and I am so honored
That
to have such a great
but
start. Yeah, to have
they
such a
would
great start down under.
right.
And because after that, it all went downhill for us in Australia. So the last part of the victory in Australia, I witnessed it, and Wasim Akram picked up 15 wickets in that series and bowled beautifully and captained really well. And the way we defended low scores there, we defended 149, 169, and I think 171. And Wasim Akram was the major part in these successes. So Wasim Akram has Sharjah Cup wins. Who can forget that in late '90s, one or two Sharjah Cup wins under him. So I think if Wasim Akram would have been captain for 2003 World Cup, Wasim Akram group was strong enough, and under him they would have played, better, and we could have finished in semi-final at least with the team, even past their peak. The players we could have done that, but for me, after Salim Malik, it was Wasim Akram who was Pakistan's best captain. After that, uh, uh, we haven't seen such charismatic captain for Pakistan for a long time.
Here I'll have to ask you a little bit of a tough question of the equation between Wasim and the Buriwala Express, Wakar. So what did you make of it? It started as a healthy competition and then went into a full-blown rivalry. So what do you feel? Your thoughts regarding that?
Well, the period that they have from 1990 to 96, 97 as a pair, they were relentless. They were relentless. They were winning us games with their bowling. They won us test matches. They won us ODIs. But there was a bit of professional jealousy, you can call it, or a healthy competition. As they both say that when Wasim get a 5 wicket haul, Wakar would make sure that in next innings or in next match, he would take 5 wicket haul as well. Such was the healthy competition between them. I think it's you have followed. You being an Indian fan can tell that the politics that can happen in subcontinent. There can be players in dressing room who can cause a bit of unsettlement and a bit of rift. And when it doesn't take much to start a grouping, but it develops very fast. I don't know how it shouldn't have been. There shouldn't have been grouping in the team. There were people talk about Vakar group, and then there was Wasim group, but Wasim and Vakar, they played cricket at their maximum, the best they could do. Even with that friction, we are indebted a lot to them. They kept their differences aside on the ground. They were champions and played like champions. And it friction at times is good as well. You know, जब आपकी किसी से लड़ाई हुई हो किसी कोलीग से, तो आपका दिल करता है कि भाई मैं उससे बेहतर परफॉर्म करके दिखाऊं.
हाँ.
So I think it worked in both phases.
So before we move on to his life after cricket, अपने listeners और जो fans हैं, उनके लिए आप अपने top 5 या ज़्यादा भी bowling performances pick कर सकते हैं. जो मतलब जो ये generation के fans हैं, वो जाके वापस YouTube पे या इस पे revisit कर सके. उसमें आपकी जो favorite हो ऐसे.
Yeah, I think his test career basically it peaked in Australian tour of 89-90. There is a ball by ball spell of MCG test on Rob Moody's Robalinda channel. Ball by ball spells in two parts. And there's a thread by Crick Vestigate on Twitter as well on this memorable bowling spell. They wrote it because it was only the second man of the match performances at MCG in a test match in losing cause, right?
Hmm.
So do watch that spell. It was even if you just see the dismissals, the more there were in swingers, out swingers with the new ball, with the old ball, Yorkers, bouncers. I'm just talking about dismissals and what he did in between these dismissals, and just to talk about his healthy friendship with the slip cordon of Pakistan cricket team. He took 11 wickets in that test match, and Mark Taylor, who made 1291 runs in the 1989 year,
Hmm.
he was dropped on one by Javed Miadad, and it was a sitter. And he went on to become made a century, and that century proved to be the difference between Pakistan and Australia, because Pakistan lost that test match by 92 runs. So that 89-90 spell was the pinnacle of his career, I think. And then 92 England series. Sorry, before that 92 World Cup. Who can
World
forget
Cup.
that?
Yes.
That
Yeah.
I think most people would have seen his uh, magical deliveries, twin magical deliveries that he bowled to Lamb and
Sam Lewis.
Lewis.
Yes.
Yeah. So 92, just to give you an insight, in 92 England series, he picked up, let me check from the diary, he picked up 82 first class wickets at 16.21 in that tour. You know, there
Hmm.
used to be a lot of tour games back then, before the test series would start. And these 82 first class wickets, these include test wickets as well, which he took 21 wickets in 4 matches at an average of 22 in the series. So these two performances, after developing as a from a teenager to now being the leader of the attack, I think these two performances in test cricket were really memorable. 94, there's a extended highlights of 94 Karachi test, a
Hmm.
famous Karachi test that we won by 1 wicket. There was a partnership between Inzamam and Mushtaq Ahmed for the 10th wicket, 59 runs, I think.
Hmm.
So he picked up 9 wicket haul. And 9 wickets in the test match. Also, I think Shane Warne also took nine wickets in that test match, and Shane Warne got the man of the match in the end. But it was a wonderful performance from him, and it became the series decider as well, because Pakistan won 1-0 nil in the end, thanks to brilliant batting in next two tests by Salim Malik. He made 500 plus runs in that series to draw next two games. And then another memorable performance for him, 96 England series. Before that, I missed that 93 Hamilton test when New Zealand were chasing 130 yard, and Waqar and Wasim blew them away for 93 runs. So that is very good as well. A great performance. And 96 97 Carlton and United series, I couldn't find his wickets package on YouTube, but when I googled it, I found one video on Daily Motion in which they collected all 15 wickets for his Carlton and United series 96 97. And do watch those two deliveries he bowled to Rahul Dravid. In swinger, Rahul Dravid was given not out, and I was watching, and I said, एक
वो
छोटी सी
आउट था
गाली भी छोटी सी गाली निकाल के अंपायर को कि यार अब इस दीवार को आउट कौन करेगा इसे आउट करना इतना मुश्किल है तो तुमने नॉट आउट दे दिया तो नेक्स्ट बॉल that was one of the greatest delivery of Wasim Akram, totally opposite and pinpoint accuracy, how he pitched it in the right area and to hit the top of half stump after that. So 99, 2002 Super Challenge Australia, Pakistan were smashed in the first ODI. Second ODI, Wasim Akram over to Gilchrist and Ponting dismissed them both in the first over and changed the series on its head. So there were a lot more. That's delivery to Sachin Tendulkar. When he with that slow ball, he dismissed him at Sharjah Cup. That was an excellent delivery as well. So these are I think, the important spells that they can watch on YouTube. Great spells, memorable spells.
So he was a very quick learner. Like he learned in swing from Marshall and slower ball from Frank Stephenson. But he was very good to teach it to others. So there is an assembly line of fast bowlers benefiting from his advice, and also he continues in franchise T20 as a coach, director, and mentor. So how has his after retirement life been? The coaching stints been, according to you?
Yeah, he had a very successful time with Kolkata Knight Riders, and Kolkata Knight Riders and the bowlers there, they do witness that they learned a lot from Wasim Akram, the coach. They improved their skills a lot, and then for Islamabad United, he was the manager, won the title there, and then won it for Karachi as well, Karachi Kings. So he has had a successful coaching career, and as a commentator, well, not the most, learned commentators around, but provide some meme content as well. Sometimes I had a chat with him this morning and stuff like that. I think it's maybe for someone so talented in his art, I think it can be a bit tough at times to be a good analyst. One thing I have seen that great analysts have been the one who haven't been at 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 an elite level of their wherever they have worked. So I think this is where he needs to improve as a cricket fan. I want him, when he has the mic, he can do a better job than what he does. So, but keep providing us that meme stuff. It can be very good sometimes, and so but his coaching, uh, bowlers should benefit. Bowlers should be benefiting from his coaching.
So just before we end, the last point I would like to ask is there were two very promising fast bowlers in Pakistan who are the proteges of Wasim Akram of sorts. So one is Mohammad Amir and the other is Junaid Khan. So what do you think as an analyst about their progress?
Muhammad Amir, well, it's a
Without
sad
comparing it to
story.
the previous era, just your
Yeah,
thoughts as to
yeah.
they were very promising. In,
Wasim Akram inspired, generations of fast bowlers coming up after him. Wasim Akram was such a big name, not in Pakistan, but overall as well. Lancashire guys used to call him King, because he had that influence on the cricketers, on his colleagues. So when Muhammad Amir came in, 17-year-old Muhammad Amir was a lot ahead than an 18 or 19-year-old Shaheen Shah Afridi, right? This was Muhammad Amir, a 17-year-old Muhammad Amir stature. But unfortunate things can happen. It happened. So, but he has come back. He not with the same force. It can be tough for someone who has not played any cricket for 5 years, which could have been his development years, to come and without those muscles developing, and come and play so much cricket. And this is the reason that he gave, that he don't want to continue test cricket, because his body can't cope with it, because of the non-cricket. He had non-cricketing years. He had 5 or 6 years. So while coming to Junaid Khan, what a wonderful start he had as a left arm fast bowler, and in ODIs as well as in tests, because most of his test matches were in UAE and Sri Lanka. Pakistan and Sri Lanka played a lot of test series during that time, both in UAE and in Sri Lanka as well. Uh, but unfortunately, uh, injury happened at pinnacle of his career, and that was, that wasn't a minor injury. That really, after injury, wasn't the same force he was. He lost a bit of pace, a bit of zip. But you could see that uh, uh, in Muhammad Amir, in Junaid Khan, in Shaheen Shah Afridi, they had that ability to swing the ball both ways, right? So even Muhammad Amir, of 17-year-old Muhammad Amir, could reverse it as well, and
right.
he could reverse it at pace. He bowled one or two very good reverse swinging spells in Australia as well. So uh, the legacy, I hope the legacy continues with Shaheen Shah Afridi. He takes the mental to even higher level, and if he can do 60-70% of what Wasim did, I think we will our cricketing future will be great, inshallah.
Definitely. So thanks a lot, Khurram sir, for gracing the occasion. And now, if there are any other questions, I'll hand over to Suneet or Yasir. Please,
uh, uh,
Suneet. हाँ,
खुरम भाई,
yeah.
अगर डू यू थिंक के वसीम अकरम अगर आज की सिचुएशन में होते हैं, टुडेज जनरेशन, then he would have been a bigger star, because media maybe T20 जहाँ पे आपको और लाइमलाइट मिलती ग्लोबली, या वो possible था या it was not possible at all?
And he did play a part in the first ever T20 game in UK. He was a part
Yes.
of one of the teams. So
I think he played 5 T20 matches and took 8 wickets at an average of under 20. And he had a very good economy as well. And that was 36-year-old Wasim Akram, 36, 37-year-old Wasim Akram, right? So I think the two guys who can fit in any form of cricket at any era, Viv Richards and Wasim Akram. You know, these are the two guys, any era, any form of cricket, they would succeed. They were such brilliant. They were just amazing to watch. Just to give you an insight, yeah, he would have got a lot of popularity, fame. यहाँ पर तो एक T20 का स्पेल डाल दो तो लेजेंड बन जाते हो, ठीक है, और ट्विटर तो बना ही देती है आपको. So just to give you an insight that he used to, in Pakistan, there used to be a lot of double wicket cricket. I hope it would also have been played in India as well. You know, double wicket cricket means that 2 players each team, there will be 10 overs, right? So when a player gets out, minus 10 runs will be deducted from the score. So Wasim Akram played a lot of that double wicket tournament, and even played Hong Kong sixes as well.
yeah,
So and I was watching a video on YouTube, Wasim Akram bowling to Abdul Razak in a double wicket tournament. I would share the link of that, and how Abdul Razak was struggling to hit Wasim Akram. I think it was his 13th or 14th ball when he hit him for first 4 in that time. So he would have been a success story. I think these two guys, the 2 guys I have named, they can be a success story in any form of cricket in any era. Such was the talent that they possessed.
and one of those guys has said about the other that I was happy that I was due to retire, and he was in his peak. So that also
Yeah.
is a great choice actually for
and,
him.
and just to give you a statistical aspect, Viv Richards faced 7 times to Wasim Akram in Test cricket, and 7 innings, and Wasim Akram got him 4 times. So that wasn't peak Viv, by the way. Yeah, it would have been some side to watch peak Viv and peak Wasim Akram against each other.
Also, I think Wasim Akram believed कि you need to practice a lot.
Yeah.
You should not, like today's fast bowlers also look at workload management and all those things. So he was not from that school of thought. He was like, if you have to bowl fast and accurate, you just keep on practicing, and that can only lead to your success.
Yeah,
So I think that mentality has also changed now.
yeah,
He has
exactly.
50,000 balls in first class cricket. What more do you like as a captain? What more can you ask for if you have a player like this in your team?
Yeah, 1,000 plus first class wickets, and 800 plus list A wickets. The longevity part is just awesome. And considering the fact that one aspect I wanted to share, if you have time,
Yeah,
is
you can go
that,
on.
yeah,
Go ahead.
he played 61 test matches away from home, only 42 matches at home, right? He played only 68 matches ODIs at home, and rest of his career, 81% of his ODI career, he played away from home. And considering 91 first class matches for Lancashire and 165 list A matches for Lancashire, so much cricket while traveling, while being on tour, and still to have this much longevity. So I think फास्ट बॉलर थोड़े नाजुक होते जा रहे हैं. तो when you talk about Curtis Ambrose, how many test matches he missed due to injury? He was a giant. He never missed a test match. I think
He was
98.
Wasim's 100th wicket actually, test wicket. Curtly Ambrose.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good. So uh, I think, and there wasn't used to be so much gym that is now, and people don't realize that. People say that more format has come and so workload management is required, but they don't realize that the fast bowlers don't play as many first class cricket as the bowlers of yesteryears used to play. Just to give you an example, uh, James Anderson has about 300 non-first class wickets, right? And McGrath has about 250 yard non-first class test wickets. So non-test first class wickets. So you don't play these tour games. So I think first class cricket used to be played a lot, and he used to play a lot of club cricket as well. He said that when I used to return to Pakistan, my club would have arranged matches, and I used to come back and play matches with my club as well. So I think, but times have changed, thoughts have changed. It's more analytical now. It's a more scientific approach. So, and even captains need, codes from the dressing room to lead on the ground. So I think things have changed. It has become more robotic now rather than being more natural.
And also, since we have now extended, I'll ask you just one question about the domestic teams. He's played for Pakistan Automobiles and PIA. So those teams now,
Yeah.
Sui gas pipelines are all, the structure has changed. So just tell us a few
Yes.
words about how it has changed.
Well, Imran Khan, Prime Minister of Pakistan, is of the view that Australia has had such a wonderful domestic structure for all those years. So he wanted, he had that desire even long before even coming, before becoming the president. So Prime Minister, he always wanted that it should be a six first class teams system of regions, just like in Sheffield Shield. And obviously now he was able to do that. But I think in that system, I just if you go through that squads of first 11 squads of Qaid Azam Trophy teams, there are so many 30 plus guys playing in this structure. You have to remove the monopoly as well. You have to remove the political aspect as well, if you want to shorten the domestic structure up to that level. Second 11, they are not broadcasted, they are not highlighted in the same way, so performances will go under the radar. So imagine Imran Farhat at this day and age playing in a Qaid-e-Azam trophy tournament, but some of the youngsters who might have a lot more potential, they aren't part of first 11. So I think, okay, if you want to really make it applicable, uh, so you will have to make every possible attempt to make it on the merit. Your squad selections, everything has to be on the merit, the monopoly and political aspects, and that senior culture, that I'm a senior player, I'll be part of first 11 squad. This has to be negated as well.
We recently, Sami Aslam has gone to shifted to
Yes.
USA because of all this
Yes.
local level politics with the coach and all that. So
Yeah. I think the 11 test Imamul Haq got, it should have been Sami Aslam's or Abid Ali's.
Hmm.
Simple as that. They both have a lot better record than Imamul Haq, and we know why Imam got these 11 matches. So if you want to have a transparent structure and a successful structure, you want all the non-cricketing aspects. You'll have to control that as well in order to make it as successful as a Sheffield Shield competition.
So, Sunit, any more questions?
No, I think we've gone quite long already. So we'll
Yeah.
wrap it up officially and then we can probably have a chat.
Yeah.
So thank you, Kuram sir, for coming on the podcast and giving us so many details and so many intricacies about the Pakistan cricket and Pakistan domestic cricket as well. So it was really fun having you and really good to know and go down that memory lane where you've told us about those memorable spells. So thank you, and we hope to have you back for some other podcasts as well.
Inshallah, thank you, Suneet. Thank you,
Thank
Yasir. Thank you, Manjubai.
you,
And
sir.
thank you, Crick Vidya, for giving me that platform to discuss cricket in general and then to discuss someone like Wasim Akram in detail with knowledgeable lot uh, like you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.